So what got you hooked about this show?
Yeah, at first, just kind of looking at the cover, it seemed that it was like a little bit more about romance and maybe like interpersonal relationship kind of stuff that I normally don't necessarily
Like
go
gravitate
for
towards?
myself. Yeah, but I think it was how well the characters are developed and combined with some of the sleuthing that she does. It's very detective-like and kind of makes everything almost like a puzzle in a way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read or watch in today's case, but actually I think you can read it too. I'm your host,
It's
Amanda
long.
Stevens. Joining me today, you heard in the intro, is my good friend, Tyler Gelbar. Welcome back.
Hi.
If
Thanks
you,
for having me.
Thank you for joining us to talk about what has started maybe ironically and then unironically become, I think, one of our favorite shared shows to talk about.
Yeah.
So, before we get into that, is there anything you want to say to introduce yourself? I think you've been on once or twice, but not this year so far.
Yeah, I've been on a few times. My name's Tyler. I like sushi and I like different kinds of stories.
Mhm. And so today we're talking about the hit series called Apothecary Diaries.
Yeah, just kind of looking at the cover,
Hmm.
I think it's a bit misleading because there's a lot more depth to the show overall than what the cover would suggest.
Yeah, the tags on it are drama, mystery, romance. But like if I could capitalize drama and mystery, I would. Like
Yeah.
there's so much drama.
Capital N for mystery.
Yes. So the original story is written by Natsu Hyuuga. It was originally Japanese language, but luckily for us, there is an English language dub on Netflix, which is where we both saw it. Today, Tyler's going to be summarizing episode 6. There's only 24 episodes out right now. Why did you pick that episode in particular?
I was trying to find an episode that I felt really captured all of the elements of the show in like one episode. There's a lot of the storytelling does fold out over the course of like the entire show and sometimes even a few different episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to find at least one episode that kind of captured all of the elements that the show offered. This episode, it's got everything. It's got a wonderful display of the political intrigue of
Mm-hmm.
Imperial China. It has a little bit of the drama and relationships of the competition between the different courtesans.
Mm-hmm.
It also showcases the protagonist's sleuthing ability and her detective skills. It also shows her penchant for poison, which she absolutely loves and looks at and tries to find any opportunity to imbibe. And then also with a little bit of that
Spice.
romantic relationship drama kind of spice just kind of sprinkled on at the
Mm-hmm.
end.
Sorry, for anyone who hasn't seen it, the reason Tyler says main character's penchant for poison, she's an apothecary, meaning that she's basically like a pharmacist. This is a near real world fiction, so a realistic fiction
Hmm.
based off of Imperial
Yeah,
China, but it's not actually taking place in the
yeah,
real world. But it means that it fills this kind of like scientific and doctor role at the same time. You know a lot about the
yeah.
natural world and you study the ways in which it affects people. And what that means is that the
Mhm.
main character, Mao Mao, is fascinated by poison to the point that she loves to ingest small doses to study what it does to the human body and learn more. So she
Yeah.
does have a penchant for poison, meaning she loves poison. She loves to study it. She would love to
Yeah.
eat poison.
Yeah. As an example of that, specifically in this episode, just to talk about the doctor elements in here,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
a lot of concepts that we know today were not very common back then. And so, like a character being allergic to food,
Yeah.
um, and nowadays you're just like, oh yeah, it's an allergy. But back then, with her kind of filling that role almost as a doctor during that time period, she does possess the knowledge of these elements that we ourselves kind of recognize. So it's
Yeah.
very well done.
Many hats. But anyway, okay,
Many hits.
let's get into it. So I'm going to start with a summary of the series overall, and then I'm going to hand it over to Tyler to give us more about what happens in episode 6. So Apothecary Diaries is a series that revolves around the characters Mao Mao, who is an apothecary, like we said, which means she's kind of this pharmacist scientist, and she grew up in the red light district, which means that she's really familiar with a lot of the ailments that common people have and a lot of the like common poisons or underhanded tricks that people might use against one another. She gets kidnapped and taken into the Forbidden Palace, where all of the emperor's courtesans live. And through a series of events, she becomes the taster, the poison test taster for one of the emperor's 4 courtesans. Along the way, she makes the acquaintance of a mysterious man named Jinshi, who she has this kind of like spark of romance between, but their relationship often hinges on the fact that they're both very clever people that other people come to solve problems. Every episode kind of revolves around them solving a medical mystery of the day. So somebody falling ill from mysterious circumstances, mysterious burns, a woman's unexplainable behavior, all happening within this political world in the back of the emperor's court. And so that kind of overlay of politics plays out in everything, along with the romance and the drama of what's going on. Some other people you will need to know. There's only 4 courtesans. We're only going to really talk about 2 today. The one that she works for is Gyokyo. And one who's going to become really important is Li Shu. Li Shu is something called a virtuous consort, which means that she's very young. She's 14. And even though she technically holds the title of consort, she is not expected to perform that role in any way. It's just kind of like a title so that she can be like a very high-standing lady in the court. And so I think that's everyone you need to know. Mao Mao, Jinshi, Li Shu, and Gyokyo. I think that's everything that people need to know. Tyler, would you give us a summary of episode 6, The Garden Party?
Sure. In the beginning, the event is well underway. And as part of that, the court and their attendants and the courtesans are all gathering here. The emperor himself will also make an appearance and have a meal with his wife in front of the court.
With all the consorts as well. Everyone important is going to eat together outside to enjoy spring.
Yep. And so as part of celebrating the season as well, too, one of the traditions that they have is to provide or like give hairpins. And so for those who are in positions of power, like high-ranking concubines or high-ranking officials, can give others, people that they either find like endearing or usually also like as a romantic thing, a very unique hairpin as a gift, or to say that like, yes, this is a person I approve of.
Yes, context. If for everyone who works in the Forbidden Palace, you actually are literally not allowed to leave. Like everyone lives there for the rest of your life. So if you get a hairpin, it's revealed later that this is kind of like a hall pass. You get to visit the outside world as long as you receive a hairpin. So they're very valuable for that.
Yep. It seems like maybe you could also call upon favors from someone if you needed something done. So it starts off, spring blossoms are in the air. Everyone's dressed in the fanciest clothes that they have. The concubines are walking around with their other attendants.
Like ladies in waiting.
And there's a little bit of drama, and they start off with that by insulting or trying to antagonize one of the other girls from the other groups. There's a little bit of rivalry between some of the ladies in waiting from the different concubines. Mao Mao has a tendency to keep to herself, mainly as a matter of just safety and observation. And this also seems to be a characteristic of her own intelligence. But Mao Mao isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And she's also not afraid to intimidate other people for the sake of protecting others.
She'll throw down for the greater good. Yeah.
She'll throw down for the greater good. That's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of quell that infighting, and she just like shoots a look at one of the other girls. And she's like, you know what? I think we're good here. We're just going to leave. Immediately kills it. So they also display to you in this episode how everything works and the different relationships that they have to the current emperor and also the concubine's relationship with the previous emperor. There's a very specific reason why all these concubines are sitting where they are.
And there's only 4 of them. So like, while they're, I don't know, like to me, that almost makes it like kind of worse because you know who everybody is. You can't get lost in the shuffle, you know? Like it's very easy to see who everybody is. And also the empress. So there's technically like 5 women involved in the emperor's life.
Yeah. So as a result of that, everyone's eyes are basically almost always on them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So while they're at this garden party, a huge part of it is like the lunch. Everybody's going to eat lunch together, which means that the poison testers, technically Mau Mau's official position, are front and center stage. So what happens during the lunch?
Perfect. This is kind of where it slips over into the sleuthing side and where she starts to be a detective. Because as a poison tester, they eat it first and then they pass it over to
A concubine
their
to
respective lady.
Yeah.
Yes. And Mau Mau is situated between the middle of two. And so she's watching out what the other two poison testers do. Mau Mau has her background in being an apothecary. This is something that she does for fun. She really enjoys this. But the other poison testers, they're
They don't
the
enjoy
life
it.
of, and that's kind of the thing is that you get to eat all this delicious food, but like that one time that you eat poison, your life is at risk and you basically die first.
You can eat it all once. You can.
Yeah, you never know if this is it.
Yeah.
And so during this episode, she does take her job very seriously. The first thing that she does is that she's tasting a dish that the emperor himself really enjoys. But she immediately notices that it's supposed to be seafood and rice, but they are using jellyfish in place of specifically later, it turned out to be a mackerel.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also notices that for the other concubines, that the food in their bowl is also different. The seafood ingredient that's in their dishes. She's also paying attention to the behavior of the other poison testers.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really happens until finally they bring out a bowl of soup. Mau Mau's face goes red. She starts blushing, and immediately she just like lowers her eyes and she goes, "It's poisoned," and smiles.
It's so good. She's so excited she got poisoned, which is insane.
Tying it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, she's like, yes, it's poison. Because she tests it so often, it doesn't really affect her as much. And so for her, it's almost kind of like a tingling sensation, as she has described it.
She also like immediately throws it up. So like, again, like because she is a doctor, she knows the best way. Like not only does she know the effect of these like many different common poisons and uncommon poisons, but she also knows like the best way and like time frames in which to immediately like negate them, which obviously is helpful for this position in particular. So she's like, yay, it's poison. And then she immediately goes and throws up.
She's like, excellent. And then, she immediately gets up, runs away from everyone else and throws up behind a bush. And so Sir Jinshi comes up to check on her and they have a conversation. And then that's when she starts to piece this information together of what she saw behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving over kind of to the conclusion of the episode is that she does end up meeting up with the poison tester for Lady Li Shu. Because even though it was Lady Gyokyo's soup that was poisoned, Lady Gyokyo's soup that was poisoned was actually intended for Lady Li Shu.
Who's the virtuous consort that we mentioned before. She's 14.
Yes. Due to the bullying of Lady Li Shu's own lady-in-waiting, it seems that at the last moment, they ended up switching the bowls between Lady Gyokyo's soup and Lady Li Shu's soup, so that Lady Li Shu was going to be forced to eat seafood. They always thought that Lady Li Shu was just like being dramatic or like just being uncomfortable just simply because she didn't like the taste.
Yeah.
But little did they know is that actually it was going to cause her an allergic reaction, which also could have potentially killed her. The episode finishes with Mau Mau coming back in and being very serious again about not taking their roles and responsibility lightly, and very tactfully ends up intimidating the lady-in-waiting for Lady Li Shu.
Yeah, the poison tester lady-in-waiting for Li Shu.
And also gently reminded her that interfering within those realms, you could also be accused of murder or attempted murder. And so she immediately she starts panicking. And Mau Mau's like, good, my job's done here. Oh, here, by the way, here's a list of things you need to watch out for of these allergies.
Yeah.
So, and how to take care of them. And she's like, here you go. And then the lady is just in the back, just panicking.
Yeah.
Deservedly so.
And she should. And
why are you bullying a 14-year-old?
And also, again, like using your position as a poison tester to bully someone, insane. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it. The episode leaves on a cliffhanger. We don't find out why somebody wanted to poison Lady Li Shu. That's for the next episode. We're not going into it. Y'all got to watch if you want to find out. But it is fun. It does have a little bit of everything in it, like you said.
And also, I think I'm also a little bit a sucker for like the mysteries. And they do a really good job at that.
I mean, the
They
thing is
really
this,
do.
like, it's hard to get across in a summary, but like they
Yeah.
do a really good job of oftentimes zagging on you. There are things like, oh, she might be allergic, da 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 da. But the
Mm.
answer is rarely the like obvious answer. And it's hard to
Hmm.
like really explain because we're basically giving you guys the parlor room scene, right? But it's hard to see how the
Hmm.
ways that they drop the clues throughout it and how Mau Mau puts it together come together until that moment. It's really good at just kind of like breadcrumbing you. So just leading you along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm.
let's get down to the nuts and bolts of it and what makes this show so meaningful to you. Actually,
I
not the show.
think,
Sorry, it would be this episode.
yeah. Okay. Usually the life of a poison tester is very tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And the show does a pretty good job displaying the reactions of all the other ladies in waiting who are not the poison testers.
Mm,
And every time they're like, oh my God, look at her, such a brave, strong soul.
yeah.
Just doing the sacrifice and, putting her life on the line, which usually is 99.9% of cases for
Mm.
those who are poison testers. That's what their life was like. If you're a poison tester who lives until their 30s at the time, it's like a miracle, basically.
Yeah.
I would imagine that their lifespans aren't particularly long, and
Yeah.
it's probably the reasons why that they're usually treated so well because their lives are usually often so short.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is not the case for Mao Mao, and she's managed to take a position that is usually quite feared, and has managed to turn it into a strength. And I think that there's a certain appeal to that is also magnified by her observation skills, and then also her ability to make relationships, and also her sense of duty and responsibility.
Hmm.
All of it just combines to make her a character that is quite strong in a patriarchal society and take care of the ones that she cares about the most.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This episode, now that you phrase it that way, I'm thinking back, is kind of a really good like temperature check to a lot of the humor that we see before this. I think it's a line that the show overall like walks very artfully between like
Mm.
lighthearted mystery and then also like the ethical reality of being a poison tester in a very like tasteful way. So like you said, like the seriousness of like contrasting Mau Mau's reaction to being a poison tester with everybody else who they're just like normal people at the time. Every time that they eat, they're terrified, like they might die any minute. Doing a quick reality check, like why somebody would choose to be a poison tester here. At the beginning, Mau Mau describes the reason she's here is because she was actually kidnapped from the red light district, which is common for young girls like her. She's like 16. And this episode really does a good job of kind of bringing back to earth a lot of the things that are made light of in previous episodes, while also not ever getting so far in that is no longer fun to watch.
Mm.
So, going from there, what meaning do you think that other people could find in this episode, or why might you recommend this episode to others?
I feel like as if it's a bit of a linchpin episode. I'd also say that it seems to highlight all of the protagonist's strengths in one episode. She's able to show her skills, she's able to show her experience, and she's also able to put responsibility on others who do not take their job seriously and are careless and end up putting others at risk.
Yeah.
And it seems that in a way that she's also kind of like as an apothecary, but reflecting the role of a doctor is to never do harm. And so in the sense of her Hippocratic Oath, she takes other people who are very careless, if it's intentional or not, she takes those situations very seriously.
Yeah, it does leave you with a lot of like poignant kind of questions. So we are almost out of time. But before we go, if you could give Apothecary Diaries, Episode 6, The Garden Party, a one-phrase subtitle of your very own, what would it be?
A subtitle, a phrase, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One-phrase subtitle of your very own.
Yeah. It's the phrase of this episode is that carelessness can kill.
All right. Oh, I love it. Tyler, thank you so much for coming back and talking to me with everybody else out here about one of our favorite shows to conspire about and about this episode. It was really fun to kind of like review it and remember all the reasons that I love this show. But unfortunately, we are all out of time. So this has been Tales of Our Time here on Radio Taiwan International. I've been your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, Tyler Gelbar. And I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Apothecary Diaries, Episode 6, The Garden Party, Carelessness Can Kill. A Tale of Our Time. We'll see you next time.